Welcome to Whack-A-Mole Industries and welcome to my shop. Well, today I'm working on a project, and that project is I want to create a new knife handle for this knife. Now this is an old kitchen knife, as some of you may catch on real quick. So I'm not just going to make a handle on this just because I want to make a handle, which would happen to be true. But also, as I do World War II reenacting, and the impression I do is French resistance, and as a result, there would be no standard issue knife, so they would have to make do with whatever they had if they were going to in fact carry a knife. So because it's so handy to have around the encampment, I like carrying a knife with me. But the problem with this knife setup is that it can fall out of the sheath. Even though it holds in pretty well, it can fall out. And I was thinking if I put a handguard on there, if I put a strap on the sheath, it will hold it on and keep it from falling out. That's the hope. So 3 things I want to accomplish, almost 4, that I want to accomplish with making this new knife handle is number 1, it needs to look like it's from the 40s. 2, I want to make it look handmade, which should be easy because it's handmade. And 3, I want it to look like it's a cross between like a fighting knife, a kitchen knife, and a hunting knife, all from the 40s. Kind of a high bar to set for it, isn't it? This rivet I know can pop out because it was never installed properly, and how I know that was when I was a kid, I popped the rivet out. So, let's go about doing this and see if I can get it out once again. Also trying to be careful and mindful of the point of this and the point of the knife. You get the point? I don't want to get stabbed. There we go. And that rivet's out. Just so you know, rivets are not probably supposed to come out that easily. Looking at the other side. Now, the part that's going to be harder to pull out, oddly enough, is the homemade rivet that I made out of a pop can or a tin can or something like that. It's going to be a little more interesting. I'm just going to try to use the pliers to break it free and hope for the best. I can spin that tin can rivet now. I've broken enough of it free. Here, it's coming out. Come on. Well, this does go to show you that a tin can rivet, or a pop can, but I think it's a tin can based on how hard it is quite a viable option for holding something on and just smashing either end. It's actually quite a pain to get out. So here we have the blade out. You can see that curved shape here. I'm thinking a guard can butt up right there and hold there as long as I anchor it somehow to the wood. So I just did some digging around in my random stash of reclaimed wood and scrap. I found this old piece of walnut that's actually from a windowsill from a house that was made in 1909. So it's a really old piece of walnut, a little scrap left over from a remodeling project. So I'm thinking maybe this might turn into a pretty knife handle for this knife. Okay, enough talking. I gotta cut out some sort of blank out of this on the bandsaw and see where we get from there. So this is the inside, this is the front. So I'm thinking about setting it right in the center. Now I just need to inset those. And hopefully everything will line up right. Oh shoot, I was afraid of that happening. Oh, that's split. Well, after that discouraging setback, I completed that whole step again, this time without splitting it out. Now it's time to carve out the shapes so the tank can fit in. There may be a power tool or another method for doing this, but this is the way I know I have control and I can just work down the wood little by little. So this is probably the slowest part of the process, as both of these had to get carved out by hand. So once these parts are carved out, I can go on to making the next pieces. Even though I was tempted to keep you guys guessing on what in the world I'm doing here, I'm actually cutting the pins so I can hold the wood in place and shape the handles. Now technically, those of you who are familiar with hacksaws will be screaming, you're not supposed to drag the blade backwards because it will flatten out the teeth. I know that, but I still am making the choice to possibly ruin the blade. While you're probably putting 2 and 2 together, it's time to drill the holes for the said pins you just saw me cut. Just in case if you didn't catch on.
you guys can probably figure out what I'm doing here as well. Well, assuming you don't need glue or anything to hold a knife handle on, and just assuming everything stays in place, it's just fine just to jump on the sander and sand the handle into shape. Nothing could go wrong here. Actually, just to save you guys time, nothing did, surprisingly. So if last time wasn't risking enough, I amped it up even further, removed the knife blade, and completed the whole risky stunt again. Just hoping the pins held everything in the spacing correctly. While my big arm is blocking the view, just imagine what I'm doing is I'm shaping it where the fingers go on the guard. I think I have some better clips shortly. Due to my award-winning long endurance and patience, I decided sanding was way too slow, so I decided to break out the trusty whittling knife and try to remove a little bit more material faster, and then I'll revisit the sander again in a little bit. Now that's some quality content, somebody's shoulder and arm blocking the view of what he's actually doing. Anyways, the grips are taking shape and I'm very happy with how they're turning out. And now here comes for a moment of, well, I did not see that coming. I thought this handle, this lever lock, was brass and it was just coated. Well, it turns out it's stainless steel. Shh, didn't plan for that. Anyways, I guess I'm gonna roll with this and try to make the guard for the knife out of the stainless steel now. Sometimes with projects, you never know quite what you're gonna turn out making, especially when you use reclaimed materials. That's sort of the fun of using reclaimed materials. By the way, when you cut stainless steel, it really gums up the cutoff wheel and it's really slow cutting compared to other materials. Not my favorite material to work with. So at this point, my brain is racing and the wheels are turning and they're smoking as they're trying to figure out this part on how I'm gonna fasten this handguard to the handle. So my solution here was to basically put 2 holes on either side of the tang where I can put pins into the wood that will be epoxied into place. So right now I am putting a center punch where I'm going to drill through this. So the metal is still hot. I'm fortunately smart enough here to use pliers instead of my bare hands. I have a tendency to burn my fingers often. After drilling these holes, I need to switch out the blades on my angle grinder from the grinding blade to this cutting blade. Because what I need to do is I need to slot the handguard so that the tang of the knife can fit in. Basically, instead of using a mill, because I don't have one, I am making do with an angle grinder and just hoping my hands are as steady as a surgeon. Let's just say I'd be the last person you want to do surgery on you. Once again, looking for solutions for the lack of the proper equipment, I'm using a vice grip for a handle. Now to treat your ears to the sound that everybody loves as it sends shivers down your spine. At least that's what it does for me. So enjoy! Well, I guess I will stop the sound. I just don't want everyone leaving the video at this time. Now on project days like this day, I don't know if I would actually need a gym. Doing this much hand filing is quite a workout. And now I'm shaping the lower part of the handguard just to make it so it fits my finger really nicely when I grab the knife handle. Oh, and then there's some random clips like this that end up on the SD card while I adjust the camera. Who knows why? So I thought I'd just share one with you. Have fun! Now that we're back from that exhilarating break, it's time to set the pins into the handguard and try to hand fit it to the handle. Let's see how that goes. By the way, I tapered these pins because they just weren't going into the handguard because the fit was very tight. So, yeah, a little thing I did off camera. So here, once again, gracing us with its presence is the wood part of the handle, which by this point in the video, you might have forgotten that we were actually working with wood before metal. So here it is. It's finally time to glue it up and let the glue dry. Again, so much fun waiting for the glue to dry. But, well, gluing it up before I make any final adjustments because I don't want it moving around. I am tired of taking risks and hoping everything stays in place just with friction.
I'm sticking the back part of the knife tang in there just as a spacer, just to help keep everything from getting too tight in there as the glue sets. There, it's all set. So here I did some more sanding on the handle and glued it together as you saw in the last clip. And then I also fitted the guard on, but nothing is actually physically connected, just held together, friction with these pins and the pins that are in through the guard into here. Now, if you notice, let me grab something real quick. There's a slight gap here. Well, I wish I could claim to be perfect the first time I try a skill or a task or try to master doing something. I'm not able to claim that here, as you can see there's a gap here. So I need to actually add some material, so I think I'm going to take this oak. It's going to create some nice contrast there. I'm going to grind it down to the same dimensions as this handle, but I'm going to have to also square off this handle and move back a little bit more of this walnut, which I think this is walnut based on how it looks. So oak and walnut, I think that'll look kind of sharp together. So I also need to remove some additional material along here. Even though it's a comfortable grip, I really like how it fits. It's just a little too chunky still, especially right here in the pinky area. I like how I was able to work back the material here, using it on the sander where the wheel is for the belt sander, just to work in the shapes for the finger grips, which I really like. So anyways, I gotta disassemble this again, which I kind of hate doing. That one was more stuck. I have to tap that one out. There we go. There's just the handle and the guard. I'm gonna pull off the guard like that. Now if you notice there's some extra shine to this. I actually took some wet and dry sandpaper yesterday and worked on polishing this up. I may do a little bit more of that, but I'm very happy with how that's looking. But anyways, I need to remove more of this material. That's the first thing on the order of today's agenda.
Unlike the previous sanding clips, I actually succeeded in getting the camera to show you what I'm actually sanding and working on. So you can kind of see how I'm rolling it and using the wheel part of this sanding belt to shape the grips of this knife handle. It worked really well.
So it's now time for me to pull out a hand tool you probably haven't seen me use much in this channel.
While you may notice that the handguard is clamped up against this oak, well, the pins are going through the handguard into the oak. I could make you believe that I just used magic to make the pins shoot through and make you think I'm all talented. I should confess I actually used the drill press off camera. So I have it on the handguard so I can use the handguard as my template to make sure my oak is fitting that perfectly.
Okay, so here's how far I've gotten on the handle. You can see where I've done the sanding for kind of like the hand grip. It's a very comfortable hand grip. That piece of wood is glued on. I've sanded it down to shape. Slight wedge shape. Just kind of like an accent, make a little bit whiter piece of wood compared to the walnut. And then this piece, it's on like that. And the last obvious piece is the actual knife blade. And then the pins will go through here. So I gotta sand this down a little bit more. I want to clean up the wood to make it a little smoother. And also this joint here. Probably will need to epoxy this on sooner than later though. But yeah, I'm gonna start working this down, sanding this down so all of this lines up nicely, and we'll have to take some finer sandpaper to this. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to work it down to the point where it's just so smooth that it's just only the smoothness of the wood, because it's kind of rough right now. I know you're technically supposed to be able to polish the wood and bring it perfect shine, but I'm cutting it a little too close to comfort for the deadline that I need this project for, which is just in a few days, and I got a lot of other projects I need to get around to before this reenactment. So I better get moving. No, I'm not drawing. I know that's what paper looks like for. I'm trying to use it as actually my mixing thing. For mixing the two-part epoxy, this is actually JB Weld. Okay, what am I doing wrong? There we go, just have to yank it a little harder, I guess. I think I mixed up way too much. I'm gonna clean out some of that JB Weld that got in the crack there, as I don't actually plan on gluing the knife blade in. What I'm trying to do is not to actually get JB Weld on the blade part in case I ever want to change out the handle again or do anything like that.
And after that sticky situation, the knife is all glued together. Now I just need to wait. Again, I just love waiting. I just need to wait for the glue to dry.
And here's the finished knife handle. Very happy how the old walnut turned out with a little bit of oak right there for contrast. I really like this. This is a pretty good handle. Fits my hand really nicely, which I am very happy about.
So that turned out pretty well, taking an old windowsill and old lever lock and a few other random things to make a knife handle. I'm really pleased with how it turned out, but the next step to this project is making the sheath that will hold the knife so the knife doesn't go flopping out during a reenactment. I will be putting a new video out shortly about the knife sheath build, so make sure to stay tuned for that, subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you guys in future videos.